G'day everybody from Australia, throwing a shrimp on the barbie. In this video we're going to go from this to this, having all your outer cables threaded through your integrated bar and stem ready to accept the levers. And then in the next video we're going to thread all those outer cables through your frame set ready to accept the rest of the group set. So no dilly-dallying about, let's get on with it. Now the things you need, because we're doing mechanical, we're not doing DI2, doing mechanical gearing, you need gear cable outers and of course your hydraulic brake hose outers. Then a dental pick, very handy if you haven't already got one, otherwise the very basic, a spoke, with the spoke head on the hook there. Then you need some, this is wire rope, I recommend that, very handy. This is 1.5 millimeter in diameter, or trimmer line, brush cutter line, whippersnipper line, whatever you call it. That's 1.6 millimeter in diameter, so thin gauge. 2 bolts with washers on, so each bolt has 2 washers on. Then masking tape, just ordinary paper masking tape, a soldering iron and some solder of course, and then something soft to put your bars on, your integrated bars, because you can turn them upside down and to get your cables through. So you don't want to scratch the nice finish on the top of your bars. So either a towel or a mat or a piece of carpet, something fairly soft. Now the first thing to establish is in which direction you're going to work with your routing. Are you going to work from the front and work your way through to the rear of the bike, or are you going to work from the rear of the bike and work up toward the front, or maybe a combination depending on which unit you're using. Maybe your brake can only go one direction while your gear goes the other. So you'll need to have a few test runs first, poke around with the outer cables and see which way you can go. Now sometimes there are obstructions in the frame, meaning you can only go in one direction, so check it all out first. With the Yoleo R12 frame, it goes in either direction. In this video we're only considering mechanical gearing, not electronic gearing. So here's the wiring as we'll be doing it. Notice that the rear brake is on the right hand side and the front brake is on the left. Looking inside the handlebars, notice on the left hand side the cables cross over, on the right side they don't. Starting with the rear gear outer, make sure there's some excess at the handle end and follow the handlebar around. Hold it, then follow the stem. Hold it at the top of the stem, go down your head tube, hold it at the head tube and then go down the down tube. Then at the bottom bracket to the rear dropout, and of course you've got a loop at the end to go to your rear derailleur, so make it a big loop, and so you've got plenty of excess on the way. And you just cut it. Now the front derailleur outer, of course it doesn't matter which side you're measuring it from, for ease I'm just doing it on this side. So same thing along the handlebar, down the head tube, down to the bottom bracket, and of course up to the front derailleur, but this one stops under the bottom bracket. But anyway, lots of excess, cut it off. The rear hydraulic brake hose follows a similar route as your rear derailleur cable, so allow a bit of excess at the handle end, along your handlebars, along the stem, down the head tube, down the down tube, and then at your bottom bracket of course it goes along the inside of the other stay on the other side toward your brake caliper. So the total length of that hose will be a little bit shorter than the rear derailleur outer. And lastly, your front brake hose. So again, a little bit of excess there at the handle end, along the handlebars, along the stem and down your head tube. But this time you're going into a hole in your fork steerer and it comes out of course down near your brake caliper. But we'll just measure it right down to the end of the dropout on the fork there and we'll cut it there. Now cut 2 lengths of wire at 2650 millimeters. Solder all 4 ends so they don't fray. File any lumpy bits off and make sure that the head is rounded. And check that they fit easily into your hoses and outers so that you have 2 wires with soldered ends. Tape one end of each of your wires together with your masking tape. This will help them slide through the bars and also save you time because you're doing 2 cables at once. So placing your bars upside down on a soft surface, put a bend in your cables so it goes around the corner from your handlebars into your stem, and gently slide the cable in and it will go around the corner and you'll see the brightly coloured sticky tape in there. There it is. Now using the dental pick, just pull it through. Easier said than done with most of this, but just have patience and you'll get it. So when you get it started, pull it, and then you can use the other hand to push the cables through and it'll come through easy. Pull the wires through. Of course not all the way through, because otherwise you're going to have to start again. And remove the masking tape from the end of the wires. Now sort your cables out. Your gear cable is on the outside of your handlebar here. Give it a jiggle, and it's this one in the middle here. There. So that when you turn your handlebars over, it is on the far right hand side of your frame, because that's where your gear is, your rear derailleur. Whereas the brake, which is on the inside, the other one will come out more central, because it has to go on the other side. Your caliper is on this side of your frame, isn't it? So the hydraulic brake line first, and that's this one here. And simply thread it on. So that should go in. There it is, it's come out. Now get your gear cable end and push that through. There it is. Push them both in at the same time. So they just sit there. Now at the end of your cable here, get that bolt. Put the inner cable between the two washers. Do it up. Now don't do it too tight. You don't want to damage the inner cable bit. Just nip it up so it's firm. Yep. Same with the brake line. So gear, brake. Now get this end and just give a bit of a pull. You might need to put your knee or your foot on the handlebar. That, and just give it a bit of a tug. Hold it. And then push these through a little bit by a little bit. There we go, there's one now already come through. And come through there. There we go. Right. Now for the other side, we're going to use the whippersnipper, weed whacker, line trimmer, whatever you call it, one of these things, one of them, and cut two pieces of the same length as the other side, 2,650 millimeters each, and tape two of the ends together with the paper masking tape. And do the same as you did with the wire on the other side. So you can start through the handlebar in this end and go to your stem, or you can start at the stem and go to the handlebar end, whichever is easier to get around that stem handlebar corner. All done. Now put the outers on the trimmer line. We'll call it trimmer line. Now we'll do the front gear cable first. Now remember, that'll be one of the inner cables coming out of your head stem. And push that all the way through. This is where it's important to have thin trimmer line, because thick trimmer line will only go so far and then it won't go through anymore. And there it is. And lastly, the front brake hose. And there we go. Pull it through a little bit so we don't lose it. And again, same as the right hand side, put those bolts with the washers on the trimmer line at the end of the outers. Now as you pull on the trimmer line at the handlebar end, push the outers through the aperture in the stem. little bit by little bit. Then pull those outers through that hole in the handlebar, just like you did on the other side. Pull out the trimmer line inners, and you're left with all 4 outer cables going through your handlebars. Now these left-hand side ones need to come through a bit more. So again, push at the stem and pull at the handlebar bit by bit, and they'll come through. So make sure you've got enough excess outer there so that when you're fitting your levers to your handlebars, you can always cut that excess off if required. So 4 cables coming into your stem and 2 each side coming out of your handlebars. Now if you find those 2 outers on the left hand side didn't cross over inside the handlebars, you can always pull those outers from the stem just through a little bit, not all the way, twist the wires over, and they should pull out in the correct order. So finally, that should be the order of all your outers going through your integrated bars. So your gear outer cable goes on the outside of the handlebar, while your brake hose goes on the inside of the handlebar. So that's why you need to cross over in the handlebar there. Now if you can't cross it over in the handlebar for some reason and you cross it over on the outside, it doesn't really matter too much, because it'll be a little bit lumpy under your bar tape, that's all. And it's in a place that you're not going to put your hands right on the corner anyhow. So that's not too bad. But try and get them so they come out nice and evenly, and they just naturally take that nice sweeping curve, which is good for your gears anyway. Well, hopefully that's helped you get your outers through your integrated bar and stem. If you know any other tricks or hints that can help us, then let us know in the comments, that'd be great. Next video, of course, is getting the cables through the frame ready for the group set. In the meantime, we'll see you on the road.
Canada, Australia.
On the bars?
Yeah, just underneath the headstand. It's 4 papers. So it has got an English pattern, so it's probably...
Oh, you got to tell me about this bike.
Very aggressive.
Frame unknown.
Frame unknown?
Stand.
You got Continental Gator skins on it?
Yeah, 52. That's why it's on the
It's quite comfortable. Yeah. And then they change it. I don't know why. You should have a look at this bike. Yeah. And you got this. I have done. I'm supposed to take this.
I love the handlebars.
Yeah, they're taken from India,
Yeah.
Canada, New Zealand.
Campax Delta brakes. Oh, nice red fast line on the rim. Nice comfy seat. That's what I need. Springs on my seat. That's what I need. Springs on my seat. Cotter pins. Remember cotter pins? Oh, you lost the washer, so you put sticking tape. Well, the pin doesn't fall out. The angles on that thing's like, and the fork side.